Tea or Coffee, a film podcast with Thomas and Joe, with theme music by bensound.org. See description for more information. Hello everybody and welcome to this new podcast. My name is Thomas and joining me is my co-host Joe.
Hello everybody.
We're going to be talking about Rogue One today, a Star Wars story as it's subtitled for some reason. It's the first of the standalone Star Wars films and directed by Gareth Edwards. And we watched it a few weeks ago and we're going to give you our thoughts on it. Joe, what do you think overall? How do you think of the story?
So I really enjoy it. I know that it's not in some ways a typical Star Wars setting, etc. But I tend to watch films just to enjoy them. So for me, I thought it was a great action film. Not necessarily a Star Wars film, but a good film in and of itself. I thought that, it was an incredible production value, everything like that. And then also a really believable and touching story.
Yeah, and you can see that I'm not as eager as Joe about this, but it was definitely sort of it was a reasonable story. It sort of knew what it was trying to do, it knew where it was going. I didn't feel that at first it started very smoothly. It sort of felt a little disjointed, a little jumpy, and every sort of act sort of felt that we're going to this place to get this thing, we're going to this place to get this thing, and now we're going to this place to get this thing. It just felt a little. Sometimes it felt a bit samey, but at the same time, I felt by the time it finally got to the third act of the film, it was really sort of going smoothly and sort of it knew what it was heading straight towards the finale with quite a flair, I suppose. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you about the jumpiness. In a way, I do think that the first part of it was perhaps had a story they wanted to tell, but they didn't want everybody to get bored. But they knew it would be boring if they didn't change locations.
Yeah.
So they kind of were flitting around all over the galaxy, kind of revealing little different plots that they were trying to hide their exposition, I guess.
Yeah.
In stories, and yes, it did get a bit tedious, the amount of different places they had to visit to search for. I mean, they went to the rebel guy. What's his name with the funny eye?
Forrest Whitaker's character, Saw Gerrera.
Yeah, and I mean his plot line is quite a weird one because you spend all this time on that planet at the clone base, well not clone base, but the Jedi Temple.
The Jedi Temple, yeah.
And you spend all this time with the story there. And then you finally get to his Saw Gerrera's place, and he's dead within a few minutes.
Yeah.
So you feel like there's a huge build-up, but not much payoff in terms of Saw Gerrera.
He's built up as this character who sort of just doesn't. He's sort of this extremist who's going to do all this crazy stuff, and he sort of interrogates that pilot with that big squid creature, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like they've built up a multi-layered character when they didn't need that much of a multi-layered one. In that he's, like you say, he's shady, he's a terrorist for the good side, essentially. And yet, it feels like maybe they were trying to make Star Wars too shady.
Yeah.
Whereas Star Wars in the past was black or white.
Yeah.
And this was just an attempt to add more depth to it.
Greyness to it.
Didn't really need him.
No.
Because if they'd have expanded upon him and made him do something good or bad...
Yeah.
In the scenes, it might have been okay, but it did feel, I guess, like he was just a bit...
He was a postman. He was going to give them the pilots, and that was it.
Yeah, that was...
And Galen's message.
Of course, yeah.
Do you think the start of the film would have benefited from a traditional opening crawl to get that exposition out of the way with, or did you sort of like the way he went with something else?
I found it refreshing, the lack of it, but...
I'm just glad we didn't have to sit through 3 paragraphs of yellow text.
Yeah, me too.
I know it's sort of
I don't think it would appeal to audiences now.
No.
It's too much reading. That sounds a bit lazy to say, but you don't go to the cinema to read, you read a book to read.
I suppose you've got all sorts of visual ways of doing exposition. It feels a little weird to have sort of 3 paragraphs of yellow text.
And it's usually considered a bit lazy. I mean,
Yeah,
Star Wars got away with it because it did it so unashamedly
yeah,
and so fully that it was able to do it. Any
yeah,
other film that's done it tends to kind of, well, you either the person does it as a voiceover,
yeah. It
which is
tends to be
also
narration.
lazy, or it kind of fails. So
Yeah, yeah. I'd have been. I wonder if they could have done something sort of more visual or something, sort of, but sort of do some sort of exposition and not in sort of a natural sort of uh, talking way or voiceover or what they did, but sort of to have sort of maybe some opening sequence where you're sort of flitting in and out of different places, but it's all sort of like I know a painting or something.
mm,
I mean, I'm not quite doing this very well, and I mean, I'd have to make it to be able to sort of explain it,
mm,
but it just feels like they could have done something else, and they weren't quite sure what to do. I think they weren't sure right to the
yeah.
end whether they're going to have an open crawl or not. And I
Got
think
a
it
bit
was,
clunky, I think.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a bit of a like we were saying earlier, it was flitting around
yeah,
and just trying to fit in too much. And perhaps they could have done something, not the old-fashioned crawl, but as something more compact, and then reserved the story to be a bit not slower, but in some ways, I think the story could have benefited from slowing down at the
yeah,
beginning. Because what I feel you get is a film that's really fast paced,
yeah,
and then the last part is forever them running around this base with their friends on the beach.
yeah,
And that's a huge chunk that's just massively slowed down.
yeah,
Whereas all the rest of it could have been weeks long
yeah,
in that they're going from different locations to different
yeah,
locations. And the last part isn't like that at all. Um,
yeah. I think so. What I did do to try and help explain was I did for the first time put caption cards for the planets.
yes.
So, which they haven't done in the past. Before, you just saw the planet and someone would say the name at some point, and that's where you learn the planet's
Yeah.
name. Now we did all the Jeddah and the Idu and the Scarif and the planet at the start, who I can't remember its name, but the one where Jin grew up on with Farming Daddy.
Yes. Perhaps that was to try and appeal to the new audiences they're
Yeah,
going for. Because, I mean, Star Wars has taken a different turn in a sense. Now it's Disney, and obviously Disney are in it for the big money.
yeah.
So they were trying to capture an audience that didn't really want to sit around and listen in for clues as to location.
That being said, this film is very much sort of a fan film in that everything in it sort of there's hundreds of Easter eggs, there's hundreds of sort of references. You have to be very familiar with the original film if you sort of know what's sort of going on at the end, I suppose. But at
Yeah,
the
I
same,
guess you kind of need to know the backstory to understand why the film really happens.
mhm.
But in a sense, you could watch it simply for a kind of romance set with action. I mean, I viewed it as a less of a traditional
Yeah,
Star Wars epic and more of a genre film,
hmm.
as opposed to just a kind of cult piece.
So, well, what did you make of the third act of the film then? Because that's been one of the things that's been talked about a lot, the
Mm.
Battle of Scarif on the beach with the plans being set on the inside with the epic space battle. But what do you think of that particular scene? It's
Oh, that one's a tricky one. In the cinema, I guess I liked it,
yeah,
but it did get slightly tedious.
yeah,
Um, in that you were just hoping for something to happen. And
hmm,
yes, it does happen right at the end when she gets the plans. But again, that also feels a bit contrived. Like you
yeah.
have what's the general who's got
Director
the white
Krennic.
cape? Yeah, as you can see here, Thomas knows a lot more of the names and stuff like that than I do. I think we'd put him as more of the nerd in
Yeah,
this one.
Joe.
But
I'm the nerd, and Joe's the one who enjoyed the film more. So
yeah,
that's his little we're in a little odd situation here. But
yeah. So I mean, that guy is kind of like he appears, but he doesn't really do much
no, that's
because
what
she
I thought.
manages anyway. And of course, what's his name saves the day.
Yeah,
E-
Cassian Andor.
Exactly, comes and saves the day, which also feels a little contrived. You kind of feel like maybe the him dying fitted the darkness of the film more.
Yeah,
Um, Whereas at the end, they both go on the beach and sit down, and it's kind of like, well, why did he live
yeah,
if they were just going to die together anyway?
yeah.
Um,
I suppose that sort of they want. I suppose that sort of fitted the war theme of the film, where even if you a momentary victory can immediately sort of turn around into sort of a well, it's sort of
mm,
we've won a something. We haven't won
yeah.
everything here. It's sort of it's very sort of ambiguous. The film is sort of. how it sort of plays it out in sort of who wins and who's losing and who's right and who's wrong
Mm,
and all that sort of idea, which I mean, for me, just doesn't really fit the fantasy genre of Star Wars. I mean, this is my main complaint with film,
mm,
that Star Wars, as you said before, is about good and evil. It's about a farm boy who teams up with a scoundrel, an old man who's a wizard, with a couple of bumbling servants to rescue a princess and save the galaxy from a Dark Lord.
mm.
It's sort of very traditional fantasy, and that sort of very traditional story is and I think that just carries on with the other films that Lucas knew what he was targeting. And the thing about fantasy is that it's very accessible to all ages.
Mm.
Uh, you don't need to sort of you can watch it or read it as an adult and appreciate it, and as a child you can also watch and appreciate it. This film, I wouldn't take a 5 or 6 year old to see it.
Yeah, not really.
It's very sort of mature, and the ideas are mature, and it's not sort of
Mm.
you can't sort
It's
of
quite
point
modern.
and you wouldn't sort of point at Saw Gerrera and go, well, he's a good guy.
Yeah, you wouldn't
He's
want to do that.
he's sort of yeah.
You'd have to be like, he's not good or bad, darling,
Well,
which is the slightly
I
bad.
mean, the interesting thing for me is he's actually appearing, or he's appeared in like past weekend on the kids show Star Wars Rebels.
Mm.
And I haven't watched it yet, but I'm hoping to watch it at some point soon. I'm interested to see how they handle it for in that audience,
Mm.
how they present him, because again, he's an extremist character,
Yeah.
and I'm just wondering how they'll incorporate
Mm.
him into a more fantasy storyline.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting what you say about the fantasy genre. I guess the fact that it's an in-between film kind of meant it had to end ambiguously.
Well, it had to end sort of in a way it did.
Yeah, it had to. I mean, it ended kind of victoriously, but kind of not, because obviously there's the epic Darth Vader scene,
Yeah,
which we'll talk about in a minute.
yeah,
But it ends with them taking the plans, but at the same time, they can't end with a full-scale victory,
no,
because otherwise, not that they can spoil the other films, because we've already all watched
no,
them, but you kind of feel like it wouldn't work. So the whole thing has to be ambiguous.
yeah. I
Even
suppose.
the ending forces the rest of the film to be slightly
But
tame.
but I mean, I'm not opposed to sort of that traditional fantasy story ending with sort of a balanced ending. I mean,
Mm,
Empire Strikes Back does what it says on the tin. It's sort of a Star Wars film where the Empire really does win,
yeah.
and the entire film is about them winning. They win the Battle of Hoth. They
Mm,
capture Han Solo at Calm City. Luke is sort of has sort of his faith in sort of Obi-Wan shattered by the end of the film with the Darth Vader revelation. It's a very sort of you can do that. It's just I didn't like having an idea of a character like Cassian Andor who will shoot his own rebel in the back.
yeah, that was a bit strange.
I mean, that apparently was a reshoot. That wasn't in the original film at all. They did that last minute
Felt a bit
because they
unnecessary.
wanted to add sort of some depth to the character, which is what they normally say when they want to do something like that.
Yeah.
Shall we move on then to characters as a whole?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I want to talk about him shooting his friend, his
Yeah,
rebel friend in the back, and I kind of get with a modern film, it's the whole like, it's the cause above them, but at
yeah,
the same time, it didn't feel that necessary
no,
in the sense that the information the man had given him wasn't exactly secret from the Empire.
no,
So I didn't quite understand why he had to kill him. I mean, yes, there's the identity and all that,
yeah,
but it seems like the Empire kind of knows that he's not with them anyway.
yeah,
So it feels like, yeah, like you say, it's a reshoot that's a bit contrived. He suddenly is this guy who will kill
hmm
people on any order, and you don't quite understand why he obeys those orders because they're not even from the leader.
And it feels a little weird. Why hasn't he changed his mind in case of Galen Erso, Jin's father? It's sort of like he's about to shoot him, and he sort of goes, "No, I won't." It's like, well, what's different
Yeah.
now? I don't think sort of Jin's particularly convinced him of the morality of it.
No, it seems a bit like a kind of accident that he just happens to. Yeah, like, he doesn't seem to have really changed his ways, and then by the end, he's this lovely guy who has changed completely.
Yeah, and he can sit on the beach and watch the world explode.
Yeah, and yes, there, I guess there's that whole motivation of him and the other pilots will go and help her because they've done such bad things.
Yeah,
But you kind of like, with this being Star Wars, they'd help her anyway
yeah.
because
It's
they
sort of
want to do the right thing.
yeah. that is sort of the complication for me with the character.
I still love the film, but
Yeah,
yeah, there's those
it is sort
weird
of
things.
it doesn't sort of quite fit the universe, I suppose. It's sort of it's been like watching Star Trek Into Darkness. I like Star Trek Into Darkness, but as a Star Trek film, it's not really about going into the universe and exploring and doing all this sort of wonderful Star Trekky
It's
thing.
people based,
It's
yeah,
it's basically sort of it's based on
character
it's
based.
character based, based on sort of Earth, and it's sort of all about sort of this sort of terrorist who's played like by
Yeah, and
Benedict Cumberbatch.
love stories and all that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's just not sort of yeah, it just doesn't fit the
I've never
genre.
really had any attachment to the previous Star Wars things, having never really watched them when I was younger. So for me, I never had that problem. I just started with the Star Trek films.
You mean
Sorry, not
you said
Star
Star
Trek,
Wars, but
not
yeah,
Star Wars.
yeah,
Just sorry. um, so yeah, I'm not attached to the previous Star Trek ones. But anyway, moving back
yeah,
to Star Wars, I guess Star Wars was a bit more character based in the sense of development with them.
yeah,
Oh, well, maybe it felt like it was trying to be and it wasn't quite.
yeah. I didn't feel the characters in this film were strong as a
They
whole.
didn't really progress.
I mean, you had Ben Mendelsohn's the villain of the piece. What's his character's name? Krennic.
Mm.
I mean, he just happened to sort of his sort of motivation was sort of I just like Tarkin, and I'm just wandering around, constantly bumping into rebels and being pretty inept at solving any
Yeah,
problems.
yeah, and wanting to be a great general and
Yeah,
etc. And you kind of don't understand why he was having so many problems. I mean, yes, there is the obviously the rebels were managing to do something, but
yeah,
it is a bit of a strange one. And then also the main characters don't develop that much.
no,
There's what's the main character's name?
Jyn Erso,
Yeah.
Felicity Jones'
So
character.
she starts off obviously she's this rebel, she's in prison and all this. As not rebel with the
She's sort of
rebels.
like a rogue, I
Yeah,
suppose.
like a
She's her
yeah,
own
rogue.
person.
But at the same time, I don't quite understand why she was quite that bad and in that situation. And then also, it's like she doesn't change that much. All that changes is she finds out her dad is alive.
Yeah,
Her real character doesn't really progress.
no, and no, that's interesting because she finds her dad's alive, and then the rebellion kill her dad with the X-wings come across and they bomb the place.
Yeah,
And then she confronts Cassian over it in the ship. She's like, the Empire didn't kill my father, the rebellion did. And the next scene is her saying to the rebellion, "Look, we all need to come together and sort of get the plans of Death Star."
yeah,
Now I can get it from a sort of personal perspective where she's like, "My dad wanted me to do this, so I'm going to do it." I don't sort of believe it's those sort of I'm now with the rebellion on
yeah. She's
this.
suddenly all political, whereas
Yeah,
before she kind of wanted to have nothing to do with organized rebellion.
I mean that was a scene with Saw Gerrera where she said something like, he goes, how do you look up and sort of see the Empire's flag above you?" She says, "Well, it's fine if you don't look up."
Yeah.
And that sort of when did that change in her? And it wasn't really
Doesn't,
there.
yeah, I guess it doesn't really change. Not that we see
We
anyway.
don't
It's not
see it change. It
explained
does
why it
change,
changes.
but we
Yeah.
don't know why.
And it's not a kind of, oh, now it's changed. It's just a, oh, now she wants to help the rebels.
Yeah,
What? And even then, with the rebels, she's forcing their hands, which goes back to her original character in a sense.
yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't. It's not really true character development.
No. What do you think of K2SO, the droid?
Oh, I found him quite funny.
Yeah,
I didn't find what I found was that he wasn't too similar to like C3PO
no,
and R2D2, which is good because they were characters in of themselves that
yeah,
were brilliant. And if he just kind of copied them,
yeah.
it would have been a bit silly. He's got more of a like C3PO never really wanted to hurt anybody,
No.
whereas he's quite happy
But
to
did you think
to fight.
do you think he's actually like R2D2 if R2D2 could speak? Do you reckon
Yeah,
R2D2's making those same sort of
actually,
comments?
that's quite true. Yeah, he is very much like that. I hadn't thought of it like that.
Because R2D2, we never hear speak, it's always sort of C3PO's reaction, sort of, "Don't you dare say that, slap."
Yeah,
But he sort of it's
you
sort
would
of
know
similar.
he's rude, and yet
We know
we've never
he's
heard him
rude.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
and
he's also very like when he sets the stormtroopers on fire and those
yeah,
kind of things. He's quite happy to be violent.
yeah.
So I guess yeah, he is like a they just took his character in a
And
sense.
Stan sort of actually told us what he's saying.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
made him a bit of a different form factor in that he could do different
yeah.
things. Yeah, I quite enjoyed that. I felt that the film was quite dark, as we've said before,
Yeah,
and he was a bit of a welcome
yeah,
relief
he
to that.
was actually. And then speaking, yeah, and I think he also had the two Force worshippers, the guards from the
Mm,
temple in Jeddah, Chirrut and Baze, I think their names are.
yeah,
can't remember their surnames.
can't remember
But sort of one of them who sort of still believes in the Force and is blind and has that stick. And then you've got Baze, who is I used to believe in the Force, but I can't anymore because all this bad things have been happening,
that.
whatever.
Yeah,
And again, they were nicely set up as sort of a very traditional Star Wars duo. Sort of like in Star Wars, you have lots of pairs, and you have C-3PO
mm,
and R2-D2, you have Han and Chewie, you have
yeah.
Obi-Wan and Anakin. It's sort of a nice sort of
They
dynamic.
kind of are your Han and Chewie.
Yeah, but I suppose they are.
Yeah, because you've got the Chewie is almost the one with the stick, so he's always a bit more positive. He's
Yeah.
much more willing to trust. And then you've got Han, who is a really great guy and actually one of the more
Hmm.
talented
Yeah.
in terms of what they need to do, but has a lot of trouble believing things.
Yeah.
So I guess they are that pair.
Yeah.
I thought they were quite a good pair in a sense.
If they'd actually had something to do.
Exactly. I felt like they they weren't given enough in that when they go out and there's the scene where the X-wings blow up her
Yeah.
dad. Um, I felt like they were almost given an opportunity to do something really interesting,
Yeah.
like find out the pilot was trying to shoot her dad kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they don't really do that much. And then at the end, there's them on the beach, and yes, one of them manages to press that button and all that,
Yeah.
but it feels contrived again,
Yeah.
like oh, we need to make this impactful. And he shoots a few stormtroopers, and that's
Well,
his final stand. And you're like,
well, we shoot just Dark Troopers, to be fair. The trouble is,
yes, but
they tried to build a Dark Troopers up as sort of these significant force,
yeah,
but we didn't really
yeah,
see
didn't
that
really get
enough.
any build up.
But that could have been quite a good scene at the end where the Dark Troopers come out and that guy goes and defeats them. But we
Yeah,
don't really see the Dark Troopers do much other than kill Jin's mum at the start.
yeah, and in that they've just killed a
Yeah, I mean that
seemingly
could be a stormtrooper.
defenseless woman. Yeah, so it's like they're not that menacing,
Hmm.
um, because a little like yeah, he's on the beach, he's been shot and all that,
Hmm.
and he shoots those dark troopers, but they don't actually manage to put that much of a fight up.
No,
They only seem to win in that scene because there's more of them.
I think I think he destroys all of them, but one of them has a grenade when he falls with it.
Yeah,
So it's a draw, isn't it? I suppose.
yeah, in a sense, but yes, there's numbers and that
Yeah,
kills him, and of course, there's more of them, and they seem a bit more. Like stormtroopers, you can kill tons of them without many people caring because
yeah,
there's so many of them, and it's kind of like that with the dark troopers.
hmm,
Like you don't really feel like he's particularly had a big victory because there's so many of them anyway.
yeah,
So that is a bit of a shame. They could have been better used, I think.
yeah. Again, I liked what they're going with them. It's just sort of they didn't sort of live up to much in the actual
Yeah, I
final
really
film.
like their characters,
Yeah,
and I felt like they were a good kind of. They summarised the film. You've got one who doesn't really believe
yeah.
and one who does.
And that's sort of very
And
much the universe of at the moment, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like is the Force who believes in the Force, who doesn't? Sort of
yeah, it's
the
very much
Jedi all
like that.
dead, and so what do you think of Bodhi, the pilot, played by Riz Ahmed?
Oh, I think that he's a good character, but perhaps underused or perhaps overused.
Yeah,
I don't really know in the sense that the beginning of the film starts with, oh, there's this pilot and all
yeah,
this, and it's kind of everything's about this pilot. And
hmm,
they finally meet him, and he's basically told them what they need to know
yeah,
in the first couple of minutes. In
and
fact, in a very short time.
yeah,
So it's and then he tags along with them, and yes, he wants to help them, but you don't really feel like there's a huge amount of motivation, perhaps.
yeah. I suppose I quite liked how he sort of goes from this sort of this very weak sort of I don't know what I'm doing sort of character.
Mm,
I'm just trying to do the right thing to end up sort of being sort of quite sort of a hero in the final battle.
yeah, and that's
But
quite
he
Star Wars, really.
that's quite Star Wars. But at the same time, he goes out so sort of a grenade just lands in the thing and he's
Yeah,
and that's it. He's gone.
yeah.
That's it. The table.
It kind of, I think the ending of that film kind of was like that, though. It's like, oh, these people have done so much. Oops, blew up.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose.
There's him with a grenade. There's the guy on the beach with a grenade,
Yeah.
and then there's the all of them get killed
Well,
not by a grenade but
most
an
of them are killed
explosion.
by a grenade. I mean, three of them are killed by a grenade. K2SO is killed by the stormtroopers, isn't he? And the last two are killed on the beach with the Death Star.
Yeah,
Actually, I did like this. One of my favourite sort of moments in that scene was when Krennic looks up and he sees a Death Star and it shoots down onto the planet, and you think he's reaping what he sowed.
yeah,
This has
yeah.
been
That's good.
his weapon,
Yeah,
and so it's now Tarkin's now firing it on him.
yeah, that is good. It's they seem to have done that with the last couple of films in a sense because if you think about
Hmm.
Force Awakens,
Yeah,
yes, they didn't fire on themselves, but it was the power of their machine that blew up
yeah.
their machine.
And
Yeah,
as such, like they just the resistance just sort of stopped to stabilize or whatever it was, and that sort of caused the planet to go supernova.
yeah.
Or I don't think planets can go supernova, but
Always a little weakness, hey?
yeah. But again, that's the other thing. This film wants to apologise for the weakness in the Death Star. It wants to say that Galen planned to do that,
Yes.
especially.
Yeah.
I just, to me, that's a bit like if Lord of the Rings had a prequel where there was an orc who was working for Sauron, and he went and Sauron was creating a ring. He went and edited a few lines of a spell so that if he threw the ring into Mount Doom, it sort of about Sauron would be defeated. It
Yeah.
just felt
Yeah,
like,
though, of course, getting the ring to Mount Doom was quite a difficult
well,
task.
yes, and it wasn't. I mean, yeah, they had it there at the start, but Elendil, no, Isildur, one of them didn't throw
Yeah.
it in.
Yeah.
But that's that sort of,
There's that huge temptation that's
yeah.
yeah.
It just felt like,
I don't know, I liked it. I
yeah,
felt that a lot of their explanations were quite good ones.
yeah,
Like in the sense that it felt like they could have been a lot less multi-layered.
yeah,
And like I know we were complaining about the fact that they perhaps were too multi-layered,
hmm,
but in the sense that if you're gonna explain it, I think they did it well.
yeah, I suppose,
And it is always that thing, why would it be designed like that with such a tiny little thing to do that? And he kind of gives a reason for it that I quite enjoy.
yeah,
Because obviously there is always that. So the Death Star has thousands of people on it, and yet not
hmm,
one of them is against the Empire in the original
yeah,
trilogy. Whereas this is, again, it's kind of, do you like the old Star Wars where you were good or bad, or do you like the new
yeah,
Star Wars where you can be kind of a bit of both? And this is kind of like that, and I maybe like that because I quite enjoy this new style of films that
yeah.
has a bit more of that.
I don't want to see. I was like, if in Empire Strikes Back, the first scene was Luke waking up thinking, how many innocent people did I kill on that Death Star? It just wouldn't feel like very. That's just not really Star Wars. But
Yeah,
that's sort of what Rogue
yeah.
One would do, because Rogue One is sort of about how many Bodhis are there and how many Galens are there in the Empire, how many people who aren't really evil,
Yeah, yeah, it is about that. It's about like
and how many Cassians are there in the Rebellion, how many Saw Gerreras, how many
yeah.
of that lot. Well, they all got killed on Scarif, so I suppose that's
It's very modern style,
yeah,
definitely. It's what people like to do. You watch, I mean, series and films, they're always like that. You're always kind of like they tried to do this really good thing, but 10 years later they find out there's somebody trying to kill them because their friend got killed in the
yeah.
really good thing kind
It's
of thing.
Captain America Civil War, isn't it? Where the main villain is sort of
Yeah.
he's his family were killed by the events of Avengers: Age of Ultron. Should we talk about visuals of this film? Speaking as it's very modern, it's
Yeah, I mean, obviously for me, visuals is quite a. I get a bit nerdy about
yeah,
that.
more so than me.
I love the style. It was
Yeah,
the Alexa 65 for anybody listening who actually knows much about that, which is it's a 67 millimeters diagonally, I believe.
hmm,
That's what the name. Oh, 65. Sorry,
yeah,
65. So it's a very big sensor, and
hmm,
it had a certain feel to it for me.
yeah,
And I quite liked it. It felt quite natural in a
hmm,
sense. The film, it's again a modern style, but it felt like it was all almost available light. Obviously, it wasn't, but it felt like that's the style they wanted to look
yeah,
like. Very almost some of the bits kind of had a lot of flair, had a lot of ghosting,
yeah,
a bit of Halo and those kind of things, and I quite
yeah.
enjoyed it. I mean, the ending scene
Oh,
where there's the explosion, I
yeah.
thought that was stunning.
Well, I thought, yeah, everything of that last third particularly I just felt was wow, sort of you had the space battle with the gate,
Oh,
and
that was, yeah.
then you had the battle on the planet with the sort of I mean, just the place where they filmed it, sort of the look, the
Mm.
beaches and the very blue water and the palm
It's the
trees.
Maldives, I believe. But
The
yeah,
Maldives,
that
sorry.
that look.
Yeah, and I thought that was just sort of that, and then sort of where they captured it and sort of where they did the visuals with it as well, and the towers and everything,
Yeah.
and the designs. It all sort of just was, yeah, it was just pretty
Sleek,
stunning.
yeah. And when she's in the when she's dressed up in the
Hmm.
not stormtrooper, the
Of the whatever troop it is, the
yeah,
Imperial
the
officer.
lighting in there is pretty
Oh yeah, yeah,
quite cool as well.
yeah.
Um, it feels, yeah, quite sleek. It's I find it always a bit ironic the way Star Wars is meant to be a long time ago,
Yeah,
and then it's all this stuff that you're like, wow, that looks so modern, and yet there are aspects to it that look very old as well.
I know, but
Sometimes the
yeah,
clothing,
but that's what I do like. It's the fact that sort of it's a technology advanced universe, but it's a worn universe.
yeah,
The droids tend to be sort of scratchy and
yeah,
scruffy. I mean, particularly in sort of original Star Wars film when you're on sort of Tatooine, everything's sort of
yeah.
sandy, everything's worn.
Even the cities, you've
Yeah,
got the sprawling kind of urban mess.
yeah,
So you got the Jedi Temple where it's all clean and peaceful, and then they go down into the city, and
yeah,
it's a mess. It's kind of like it looks New York or some kind of metropolis
yeah.
like that. It
It's
was
not sort of,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, as we're on visuals, should we talk about the two CGI characters in this film, Princess Leia and Grand Moff Tarkin?
Oh, one thing
Oh, one
first
more
about the
thing is
lighting.
about lighting. Okay.
I found it very interesting. The director of photography used a lot of LED panels.
Hmm.
It was just good to see them utilized for such a big production.
Yeah.
And I kind of think it showed in a way. It had a, well, I won't talk too much about that. Anyway, let's move on to the CGI characters.
Well, let's go for Leia first because she's only in it for a few seconds.
Yeah, I
Did
didn't realize she was CGI. I remember I told you that night. I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure she was an
well,
actress.
it was definitely an actress fair. It was
Yeah,
a
but
Swedish actress whose name I can't remember.
yeah, I didn't realize her face had been done though.
Yeah, I thought I didn't really like it. I thought it sort of stood out to me and sort of
Mm.
it was like, yeah, okay,
I kind of feel like with Carrie Fisher gone, and obviously she'd performed it so well
yeah,
that you need to, rather than recreate her performance or her style,
hmm,
which I don't think you can because it was good. And also, if you were to try and start doing that, you'd have to really get your CGI to
yeah.
a perfect level, and especially since the next few films I believe will include her.
Well, episode 8 certainly will
Yeah,
because I mean she's filmed most of that.
exactly. And I kind of feel like, well, after that, they at least after what they've already got of her,
Hmm.
they need to move on to a different actress, who, or they're going to have to just say that the character doesn't appear anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
They're considering CGI, but I think also looking at other options because I think it'll be quite, yeah, it would just be difficult to know exactly what to do. Obviously, what has happened is that sort of I don't think they weren't planning on killing her off in episode 8.
yeah,
If they had done, then they wouldn't really be worried about it. So presumably she's making it through to episode 9, and it's a question of what they do with her now in episode 9 because Carrie Fisher's not around.
yeah,
I mean, they said that they wanted to have her in quite a lot of episode 9, so
yeah. It really depends how much they've already staked on it, I guess.
yeah, I suppose they're going to have. I mean, haven't started shooting yet, so I mean, they got a few months, I think, but they're going to have to sort out quite quickly. Uh, Going back to Tarkin,
Hmm.
then I sent you an article the day after we saw the film
I think so. Yeah.
from Collider on the sort of the ethics of bringing back Peter Cushing, whether or not an actor's performance is equivalent to a motion capture artist and a few visual effects guys. And
Mm.
yeah, I didn't like it, to be honest. I felt they could have recast it. They recast Mon Mothma. They recast. Uh,
I think in some ways they should have recast it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't. Tarkin's pretty iconic, but the guy they got even sort of looked like him. Sort of the guy who was doing the motion capture. It's like, well, maybe they should have brought in a.
Yeah, I feel like after reading that article and thinking about it, the in terms of ethics for me, there's the maybe if you're doing one scene
Yeah,
or just a quick little thing, it's okay to CGI.
or hologram or
But
something.
yeah, But when it's like a whole film, I feel like it's, in one sense, if it's what the actor would have wanted done, obviously, if he's made that clear before,
Yeah,
you've got that flexibility. But otherwise, you never quite know if they would have wanted it. And there's
yeah,
also the the debate in a sense that maybe it's, I feel like it's not respectful to actors that you can use, because
yeah.
it's taking away an opportunity from a new talent
Hmm.
who could have perhaps not completely recreated but brought something new to the table,
Yeah,
and it would have been a good opportunity for them, whereas this kind of removes that
yeah,
and just gets stuck with old ones. And obviously, to me, if loads of films start doing that, it would
hmm,
be quite a shame, because you get stuck
yeah.
with this period, um,
Yes, it was.
era,
Yeah,
as opposed to just moving on, because it is a new Star Wars step.
yeah.
It's not the old ones.
And I sort of felt as well that with Tarkin playing as prominent role as it did sort of take away a bit from Krennic as a character. That he was sort of left sort of, as I said before, he just felt sort of a bit sort of, I'm really angry at Tarkin, and I keep on getting beaten by rebels because they keep arriving at the same place as me at the same time.
Yeah,
And sort of, it sort of, yeah, it felt Krennic might have had a bigger role, or even Vader,
mm.
if uh, if they sort of just went, okay, we'll save Tarkin for a quick cameo, maybe at the end where after Krennic dies, he takes control of Death Star or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. That would have. I think that would have worked better for me. I didn't at the time know he was CGI, but he did feel a bit weird.
Yeah, well, I knew it was CGI because Peter Cushing's dead, but
Mm.
at the same time,
I hadn't. I mean, to be honest with you, I watched the original trilogies a while ago,
yeah,
and have never really looked into the background too much. Only now am I doing that more.
yeah,
Suddenly getting way back into it again.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I got
just like,
socks for Christmas. I got books,
I know
etc.
you got a very nice book of art and storyboards and
Yes,
everything.
I've got two books
Yeah,
actually. I've
two
got another
books.
one in the other room. Um,
They're probably available on Amazon if you're interested, which the
it's
people
probably are,
listening.
yeah.
Uh, and if Dixon wants sends any money for plugging their stuff, then that'll be fine. Uh, I've got next on my list Darth Vader.
Yeah, I loved it. Um,
Okay, both scenes, even the choking on your own ambitions.
that was a bit cheesy, I found. Yeah, that was slightly too much. I'm not that much of a pun fan, partly because I can't do any.
Yeah,
But even I knew that that was. I don't know. It kind of didn't feel very Vaderish. It felt like he would have, like, surely if Vader was, well, he is human in a sense, would have had to have chuckled at that, and
yeah,
that doesn't feel like Vader.
yeah,
Um, and that I felt like they already had the humor they needed from the other, like the robot and all that.
yeah.
So it's perhaps too much. But like his whole, when he wakes up or
Oh yeah,
he's in that machine.
the back tank. He's in his big castle on Mustafar.
Yeah, I mean, I like that.
Oh, yeah,
I thought that was
yeah, but
impressive.
I like that sort of that introduction.
I feel like they brought power to him.
Yeah,
Like the scene where the choking on your own ambition.
yeah,
I don't like that phrase, but I do like the scene in that I
yeah,
feel like it shows just how ruthless Vader is.
yeah,
It kind of goes back to the old ones where he
hmm,
is a really nasty guy.
yeah,
He will like threaten his own captains
yeah,
and
and choke
commanders.
him to death
Yeah,
all at once.
exactly. He doesn't care.
No,
It's all about performance.
yeah,
It's no loyalty to people, which makes sense
other
with
than
his
the Emperor.
original character. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, so it's a. I feel like that was quite a good thing, and the last scene is just incredible.
yeah.
Him fighting.
It's very. I'm not a big fan of that scene because it feels like Darth Vader from a video game. Where if you gave a fan sort of you're playing Battlefront and you say you've got Darth Vader, that's what he goes and that's what the fan goes and does.
Mm,
I think I've mentioned this to you. I've mentioned it to my brother more. But when you have sort of Darth Vader, he always feels like he's above it.
mm,
He feels like he's a Dark Lord and sort of he's not going to go and fight sort of peasant soldiers.
yeah,
He feels like you've got to earn your way up to fight me. Otherwise,
yeah.
I'm not going to be bothered with you.
He
He
usually just does the last few people.
he
Like,
doesn't really do that. It's sort of like it's the Obi-Wans, the
yeah.
Lukes, and sort of the best
Well,
pilots
I
of the
think there were
rebellion.
a few moments though where in the original, in the when the start when Oh, which film is it? The one where it starts. It's the original trilogy. It starts
Hmm.
with the rebel ship being brought up into
Yeah,
the.
the A New Hope. In that scene, he wanders off. He sends the stormtroopers in first.
Yeah.
The stormtroopers kill most people. He wanders on, and there's a scene where he chokes the captain,
Mm,
Captain Antilles, and throws him against the wall.
yeah.
And that sort of, again, that's sort of it. That's sort of where he's trying to get information out of the guy, and he's
Yeah.
prepared to choke him.
Yeah, I guess
It's not
a
so
very
much. It's not so
purposeful.
much
Yeah,
a
that did
fight
feel a
scene.
bit of a kind of you don't quite get why he bothered fighting them because
Yeah.
it also took him a while to do.
Hmm.
Like there's they're handing
With a
the
flash
hard
disc,
drive to the other one, and
very
you
70s
kind of
technology.
yeah you kind of wonder
I assume he didn't
why he
notice
doesn't
it's there.
yeah, presumably, but Vader is meant to be a quite a powerful character, and it
Yeah.
feels like quite a massive oversight, and like he's let his annoyance get the best of him, so he's fighting it just to kind of
Yeah.
get frustration out.
And that in many ways that scene sort of summed up sort of the movie in that it was sort of like it was really visually pleasing,
Yes,
but at the
it
same
was
time,
fun.
if someone's just not probing it, you think, well, is that really what Darth Vader do? Is that really how
Yeah,
Star Wars works, or is this more just sort of a fan sort of take on Star Wars in a very modern way?
I think though, if you read about when they thought about Rogue One, it was a fans kind of take on it. So I
Oh, it
guess
was,
that's
yeah,
where it all stems in that the whole thing, in a sense, is fans
yeah,
making things that make them happy in a
yeah,
way with a lot of backing.
and I suppose fans for me both make and often ruin
Mm,
their own things, and I can understand if George Lucas. I mean, he hasn't. George Lucas actually said he's happy, he's all right with this film. But I can sort of understand how George Lucas sort of feels about sort of the fans' sort of reception to the prequels and sort of their sort of hatred of the prequels, and sort of, and he just feels like, well, I was being consistent with Star Wars. You just didn't understand what you didn't understand the same Star Wars I understood,
mm,
and this is sort of their Star Wars, and the prequels were his Star Wars,
mm,
and sort of I can sort of understand why he would be sort of upset,
mm.
sort of and sort of
Perhaps
so
if he hadn't gone so overboard with a few of the CGI elements in the
yeah.
first one, so
But again, that was sort of what he always did. He always sort of saw
yeah,
as a chance to push technologies.
yeah.
And you know that
And
original.
he did. When I watched those when I was younger, I never actually had a problem with those ones. I
No,
enjoyed them.
when I was younger, I was happy with them. Now
Mm,
I can understand some of the critical critique of them.
mm,
Sort of, okay, yeah, maybe sort of Jar Jar Binks and other characters weren't the best ideas in the world.
yeah.
Maybe Hayden Christensen can't actually act, and his line delivery is appalling. Maybe sort of some of the plot elements could have been better done, all that sort of stuff. But I mean, as a child, I did sort of enjoy them. I was
Yeah.
3 when Phantom Menace came out, and sort of I was happy to wait for the 2 hours of that Darth Maul fight scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm less against the prequels that others are, but again, I can still appreciate the flaws in them. But I can also appreciate what George Lucas was trying to do,
Mm,
and I can sort of see how sort of this new era, this Disney era, this Kathleen Kennedy of Lucasfilm era of Star Wars films has sort of gone off on a different sort of tangent,
mm,
and I'm not entirely on board with it. I like lots of it, but I could also and like sort of I sort of miss George Lucas's touch to these films.
yeah.
I sort of feel that there's thing of George Lucas where it's missing of them, and that's sort
Mm.
of
Do you feel like that there was more of that in The Force Awakens?
I again, even with Force Awakens, I can sort of see sort of the Lucas versus sort of the Lucas elements not really there. I think it's more there than in Rogue
Mm.
One.
Yeah, definitely more there.
I think Abrams is a very good mimic as a director. I mean, he's often very good at sort of bringing back dying franchises, Mission Impossible, Star Trek,
Mm.
Star
Yeah,
Wars, and it's sort of he can often pay tribute to them while sort of doing his own sort of thing.
yeah.
But he's not. I wouldn't say that's. I still say that there's elements of it which you think I'm not sure George would have done that.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think Force Awakens part of it was that it was we hadn't seen Star Wars in so long,
yeah,
and this brought back Star Wars with a new level of
oh yeah,
technology and everything that you could utilize to make it
yeah,
just stunning and incredible. Kind of what he did with Star Trek,
yeah,
in that that brought it back, and it was stunning.
hmm
So I guess that's yeah, it was
yeah.
brute force.
And I do like Force Awakens. do like to an extent Rogue One.
Mm.
But I'm not, and I'm happy. I'm looking forward to Episode 8. I'm looking forward to a Han Solo film. Not that much. I'm not entirely sure I want a Han Solo prequel film, but I'm still. It's got so much talent on board. It's sort of like, well, it's hard to not look forward to it.
Yeah.
DC this week.
I'm interested to see what they'll do with all of these
Yeah,
things.
this week Woody Harrelson was revealed to be in talks for a role in that Han Solo film.
That would be interesting.
And obviously you've got Donald Glover playing Lando, and yeah, it'll be
Woody
interesting.
Harrelson kind of, in a sense, gives you what they're doing with Star Wars nowadays, though, because Woody Harrelson is one of those characters who is never really completely good or bad.
No,
So he kind of summarizes
but
as well.
But I feel there's slightly more liberty though with that film because it's about smugglers.
And it was about Han Solo.
And
who,
Han Solo
yeah, he's
was
always been a bit of a grey and
Han Solo started off as a great point was his sort of Star Wars was his redemption story. He ends with him coming back to save the day to rescue Luke, and from then on he's a good general. He's still sort of the wisecracking character. His moral,
more mature, etc.
His moral, he's forced to take a side, and he takes a side.
Yeah.
What else have we got here? Do you want to talk about any Easter eggs in the film? I can list some off the top of my head, and you tell me
I'm
if you.
rubbish at noticing any, so.
Well, if I list them, you tell me if you thought that was a good idea or not. At the start of the film, there's a canister of blue milk on the side, reference to the original Star Wars film where Luke drinks blue milk. Were you up for that?
I didn't even notice that.
The camera sort of stopped though for like a few seconds just to pan in on this, and it's like gone to the next scene. In the final battle, Red 5, the X-Wing pilot Red 5 is shot down because Luke is Red 5 in the original film, so no up for it.
No, this kind of describes our difference as well.
Yeah. Also use archive footage of 2 of the X-Wing pilots from the original film. They'd even got footage that had never been used before, and they incorporated in the film, so that in that final battle they got some new footage of these 2 guys.
Oh, okay.
With gold leader and red leader, but we'll leave these.
I think I may have noticed a difference in quality at one point, but I didn't know what to attribute it to.
Okay. Well, we'll leave Easter eggs for now. We're at 47 minutes. Rating. How do you want to rate this film? Now, we're going to have a rating system on this podcast where we basically equate it to a drink. If it's a very stale, sort of placid film, then we're going to give it sort of water. If it sort of leaves a bitter taste, then it's vinegar. We don't normally drink vinegar, we should say, but we just need something that tastes really bad and which everyone can agree tastes sour. If it's sort of very wholesome and warm and sort of leaves you sort of feeling sort of comfortable, then it's sort of a hot chocolate. If it sort of gives you a quick adrenaline rush, but it's actually sort of pretty bad, then it's an instant coffee, and so on and so forth. So, do you want to go first, or should I? I've got one. If you're
go for it.
Okay, I'm thinking that this is like a bottle of sparkling water, which someone has sort of squeezed a bit of lemon juice in, and sort of shaken it up, and then given it to you, and you drink, and you think this could be lemonade, but it's not quite.
Yeah,
it's like it's heading in the right direction, but it's not quite there. It's sort of missing something, but it's still sort of reminds you of something which I quite like.
Yeah. I think I have to say what the old films were to understand what this one is. I'm going to go with whiskey for me.
There you go.
So I'd say the old films. Let's say they're a really good kind of vintage whiskey.
Yeah.
And you've got that classic taste. And this is whiskey, and it's a quality brand.
Yeah.
However, it's a new whiskey, and it's not a classic taste.
Yeah.
So it's still a whiskey, and it's still enjoyable.
Yeah.
Still want to drink it. But it's not the same taste. It's not the same style. I think that. Do you understand?
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I don't drink whiskey, but I'm sure our listeners who do will be able to appreciate that. So, we'll finish talking about Rogue One with one simple question: what do you think the best scene in the film was?
Oh.
Again, I've got mine. If you
go for yours first.
Oh, I felt the scene that really sort of brought the film back to its Star Wars roots. Actually, it was a scene you criticised earlier, which was the death of Donna Ying's character Chirrut, where he walks out through the stormtroopers and he goes, "I'm one with the Force, the Force with me. I'm one with the Force, the Force with me. I'm one with the Force, the Force with me." And he goes out and he presses a button. and then he's killed.
Mm.
And then sort of Baze comes up to him and sort of hears and sort of goes, "Wow!" Sort of that sort of he holds him as he dies. He goes, "Sort of
Mm.
now I sort of now I see again. Sort of I can I'm prepared to." Sort of, he also starts sort of, I'm one of the forces of me,
Yeah.
and he goes and sort of kills the Death Troopers. I sort of felt that was sort of like that scene could be sort of coincidental if this was a realistic
Mm.
film, realistic sort of war film, sort of like that would really happen. How would he walk past all those bullets? But at the
Yeah.
same time, if you say, well, actually, that's just this energy field, this force which exists in this universe, and sort of he at this moment is sort of really sort of focusing on it,
Mm.
that he can actually just walk through and the bullets will miss him, and sort
Mm.
of it feels very sort of it's the closest scene in the film to having a Jedi in it. A Jedi would want
Yeah.
for that easily, and so that sort of felt like we're really sort of reaching into something that's very sort of Star Warsy, and it felt very consistent with the character. And I just wish the character had more development up to that point, but it felt it was sort of a very fitting end to the character that he was sort of that in this sort of his glory moment is when he's really sort of able to really link into a force and sort of save the
Mm.
day.
I think I agree with you actually.
Well, that's no debate then, is there?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was criticizing it earlier, but I don't criticize for it for that. I criticize it for that, like, I love that moment and all that. I just feel sad that he dies so quickly
Yeah.
after believing in the Force.
Yeah.
Um,
It's that sort of like a Darth Vader, isn't it? When Darth Vader's finally restored,
yeah,
he dies.
yeah, I guess it is. But I do love that partly because
Spoiler
I
alert.
love the friendship they have. Yeah, spoiler.
Actually, we probably should start this podcast saying spoilers for Rogue One, but I mean, let's be honest, it's been out for weeks, and if you haven't seen it, you're probably not that interested.
Yeah, exactly. Probably won't be listening to this if you haven't seen it.
No.
But anyway, or not up until now. But yeah, I think I that was probably one of the scenes I enjoyed the most.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, you also love the Vader scene at the end.
I do love that scene, but at the same time, I like it because it's just
It's quite
kind of
awesome.
incredible in
Yeah.
some ways, but not in that it's like a classic moment. Their friendship is an epic kind of.
Mhm.
It's sacrifice, and it's like I don't want to be around because you're not around. So
Mhm.
like, it's just I think it's a wonderful friendship.
Yeah, it's sort of like the Han and Chewie,
Mm.
and it'll be interesting how they handled Chewie in episode 8. But you sort of wonder if Chewie is really going to be that sort of happy now Han's not around,
Yeah.
whether Chewie's going to be sort of unstable, I think. One other scene, and I'll bring up to say is almost up there, is a scene in Saw Gerrera's cave where he opens a hologram of Jin's father, and Jin's just watching it. And for Mads Mikkelsen, who plays Galen Erso,
Mm.
his performance in that scene is pretty impressive because he just goes with it sort of. I did what they didn't expect to. I learned to lie. I learned to live in the Empire, and I built this floor into the Death Star. I've given hope to the galaxy, basically.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I've all done it for you, Jin, because you're my
Yeah,
Stardust.
that's touching as well.
It's touching. Again, I don't like the fact he's built a floor into the Death Star, but considering he has, that scene's actually pretty well done.
Yeah.
And I really think Mads Mikkelsen, it actually really sort of nails
Yeah.
that father-daughter, which is a classic Star Wars sort of parent-child relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I think that scene also makes me feel like there's the Saw Gerrera and there's the Jin's
Mhm.
dad's relationship with Saul
Mhm.
that's very hinted at,
Yeah,
but you don't really know why they know each other.
yeah.
And all
There's a
this-
prequel novel, but I haven't read it.
Oh, but what I'm sad about is that I feel like that would have in itself been
Yeah.
part of maybe a more interesting storyline
Yeah,
than some of the other bits. And so I like that makes me like, oh, I'm kind of sad I won't ever find out about that.
so you'd almost want to say that you'd have like seen Saw go with them to try and rescue Galen because of their friendship from long ago or something.
Yeah, I would have actually. And I think Saul would have brought a depth to it that they were trying to put in it,
Yeah.
but maybe trying to put a bit
Mhm.
like heavy-handedly, whereas Saul
Yeah.
Guerrero would have forced them
Yeah,
to take a different approach because obviously he was that kind of terrorist.
yeah,
And so he'd bring in this aspect of he's brutal.
yeah.
And so they'd have to struggle with that, as
Mhm.
opposed to making what's his name, the pilot slash
Uh,
assassin
we
rebel
got Cassian and you got well, the other
Cassian.
pilot is Bodhi, isn't it? Yeah,
It's Cassian. As opposed to making him kind of
yeah,
bad, they could have just had Saul Guerrero
yeah. I
because
suppose
he
so.
is that bad character in a sense. Not bad, but
Yeah, he's the grey character, and
yeah,
he's actually outside the rebellion. They've sort of
yeah,
said,
he's an
well, we're a
outsider.
bit
Yeah,
embarrassed of him because he's done some terrible things in the past, and we don't really
yeah,
want him with us.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I think that sort of sums up what I talk about Rogue One. But we got some other stuff. There's been some news recently. It's the Golden Globes last weekend. Uh, did you watch the Golden Globes, Joe?
I didn't
I
watch
didn't
it.
watch the Golden Globes
I
either.
read about it this morning.
Yeah. What do you think of La La Land making a clean sweep of
From what I've seen so far, I think it deserves it in some ways.
yeah,
Like a musical is quite a tough thing to sell nowadays,
yeah,
and I think that it was brave. And I mean, Emma Stone is a great actress, and it's got
yeah,
Ryan Gosling, who's also very good. So it's
yeah,
yeah, I want to see it. I haven't seen it yet,
yeah.
but I'm planning to watch that.
Yeah, that could
We
be
should talk
interesting.
about that at some point.
Oh
Quite a
well,
different one to
yeah,
talk
that
about.
would be quite different. I don't know if we
Yeah.
could carry an episode. I don't think there'd be many Easter eggs for us.
No, but yeah.
Uh,
Rogue One, interestingly, um,
yeah.
hasn't done as well in China as Force
No,
Awakens.
I didn't expect it to be
Yeah,
honest.
I guess it's.
Well, I suppose they
But for example, I guess Force Awakens had more hype in that it was the first Star Wars film in a long
probably.
time, and maybe the Chinese didn't like it as much,
Hmm.
so they just weren't as excited for One.
Yeah, well, but Star Wars has never performed historically well in China. I mean, and also Rogue One is a second film. So the first film brought Star Wars back, so
Yeah.
it was always going to make more money. Rogue One looks like it's going to make about 530, 540
Mm.
in America, and probably just crack 1 billion worldwide. But yeah, I don't think it will do that well in
I
China.
guess Rogue One, in some ways, I think is a better piece of filmmaking, but it doesn't have the star appeal
No,
and all that that
and
the
it doesn't sort of have the lightsaber duels or the
yeah.
it's first Star Wars film about a lightsaber duel. In fact, uh, going back to the Golden Globes, Zootopia won Best Animated Feature Film.
That's I did enjoy Zootopia.
What else? The Crown won Best Drama for Television.
I haven't watched The
I haven't
Crown.
watched The Crown.
I've heard good things.
The Night Manager, Tom Hiddleston, Best Actor for Television.
I've heard very good things and plan to watch it, but
Uh,
haven't watched it.
I haven't seen it either. Yeah, my brother's watched it. Yeah, it says it's pretty good. Moonlight won Best Drama for Film, which I don't know anything about. Do you know anything about
Neither
Moonlight?
do I. I
No.
saw about it today and I'm
Obviously,
planning
La La
to.
Land won Best Musical or Comedy. I
Yeah.
assume because it's a musical.
Well, apparently Moonlight didn't get many mentions apart from it suddenly took Best Picture. So
No, okay. Because Manchester by the Sea has got lots of really good reviews. Of Ben Affleck's younger brother,
Casey,
Casey. That's right.
I do like his acting.
He won Best Actor, and well, Best Actor in a Drama, not Best Actor in Musical or Comedy, because that was Gosling. But it'll be interesting, yeah, to see if. I mean, I haven't seen it, but it's
seen
had
it,
lots of
yeah.
positive reviews, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Also this week, Justice League picture.
Yes, I'm looking at it right now, and I think what kind of sums up me and comics is that I had no idea who the middle character is. Not
Cyborg.
that I don't like characters, but
Yeah,
it's just not traditionally my thing. I do watch them all, but I don't know
Yeah.
much about the stories.
I-
I think it looks good.
yeah. I'm hoping. Well, I'm almost wondering whether this means we're going to get a trailer soon.
Yeah, another trailer.
Because they tend to sort of pictures and trailers often come out at the same time. Not
Yeah.
always, depending on who releases a picture, if there's a magazine or something. But
Mm.
Batman's wearing his bat goggles, as I pointed out before. Uh, Flash's costume looks quite dark.
Yeah,
As yeah, and very sort of metallic. I mean, I watch the CW show, and it's sort of slightly dissettling to me
Different
to see him sort of in sort of this armor and sort of
this is a slightly more shady turn again.
yeah. But I mean, I'm interested to see what they'll do with him because have you watched X-Men: Days of Future Past?
Yes.
Where we have that Quicksilver scene where he's running around and doing all the super
Oh,
speed
that
stuff.
was an incredible scene.
Exactly. So I'm wondering what they're going to do to try and top that with Flash because I
Yeah.
can't see Zack Snyder sitting around going, well, we just do normal super speed effects. I imagine they've got some
Yeah.
action set piece for Flash,
Yeah.
and I'll be interested
Say
if
what
that
you will
is.
about Zack Snyder, I think that he's quite he's to me he's brilliant at doing some stunning sequences. Like perhaps a few of his most recent
Hmm.
films have flopped in some ways, but I
Yeah,
feel like he's very good at incredible sequences,
yeah.
very artistic and visually
Hmm.
interesting. For example, Batman vs Superman. Have you watched it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, well, it has one scene where Batman, his parents get killed,
Yeah, we haven't seen
and
that many times. Only about 7 or 8 times on film. But anyway.
yes, but I felt that it was when the gun goes off and all that. I just
Hmm.
loved the way he did it,
Yeah,
and there's some moments in that film that are very weird,
yeah.
but I really like them
Hmm.
for their artistic
Yeah.
level. Um, yeah,
Have you seen the Beauty and the Beast TV spot?
I have not, but I am planning to watch it as soon as it comes out.
Oh, I don't care.
Oh, oh, my wife and I will be going.
What else news is there of a week? Anything interesting? There's a new Lego Batman movie TV spot.
Yeah, that actually looked okay. I hadn't been that interested in Lego Batman, and then I watched that and I was kind of intrigued. I'm
Yeah.
interested to see what will happen because I'm a bit of a kid and I did love
Hmm.
the Lego
Yeah.
the Lego film. Um, Not everybody does, but
No.
I quite enjoyed it.
I liked the Lego film.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun.
And we've done an hour
We've done
now.
an
We
hour,
probably
so
should
we
wrap
could
it up.
probably wrap it up. We haven't decided a name for this yet, but by the time we post this, there probably will be a name attached to the front of it.
Could be the untitled
The
podcast for
entitled
now.
podcast for now. We will try and set a Twitter account up for it. So if you want to tweet in and suggest any films we should review, then you can. This will probably be available on YouTube, iTunes, and maybe somewhere else as well. Just I
Well
don't.
done if you've listened up till now.
Yeah, well done if you listened up till now. I mean, yeah, give yourself a round of applause or something. And thanks for listening. And goodbye.
Yeah, bye.